invest in people in the long term, there has to be a mutual understanding.
Hustle hard, hustle hard. Closed mouths don't get fed. Thinking strategically, but acting like a gorilla is the kind of marketing that's small. When it innovates very little, it's highly risk averse, and it indicates the
I am a professional, so I could take something like a model like this and I can make it exciting. Believe me, this is one of the most exciting models. I promise you. This is a model of showing us, in a way, how we can be influential. And I'll break it down. Each leader has their traits, which you know about. You have your behaviors and you have your situation. That sound very familiar to you. These are all of the things that lead to leadership effectiveness. Is not just the leader themselves, but the situation, also the team members, the situation, the team members would be a part of that. So based on who we are, based on the kind of behaviors and styles that we pick up on, and based on the situation, which we learned about in contingency theories and situational theories, where how much power do I have, how much, how good relationships do I have, and how clear are the tasks, all of these things are taken into consideration. Then from there, we pick something called an influence tactic. And what everybody just saw in that articulation of projects is each person had their own way of it trying to influence us. They did it through visuals, they did it through compelling stories. Jake did it through talking about the goal of selling a house one day. I mean, that's he started with the end in mind, and all of those things, whether you know it or not, are influencing people around you and their tactics. And the more we can identify those tactics and use them purposefully, the better we're going to have an outcome. And the outcome is very important because there's three key outcomes that are going to happen. You have a leader, either yourself or somebody. They try to influence you, and in trying to influence you, they deploy something called a tactic, an influence tactic. Whether they're aware of it or not, they're trying it. And then in their efforts of trying it, they're going to get either your commitment, where you're going to say, I'm going to China for sure, 100%, just bought my ticket. When are we leaving? That's commitment. Compliance is, okay, it sounded great. It's compelling. So I guess I'll go. And you just let me know what I need to do next. So that's compliance. And resistance, I'm sure you can understand, is, well, I'm not sure this is the right idea. I don't think I want to do it. You're going to have to try again. I'm resisting your desire to influence me, and it's not working. So those are the three outcomes based on who you are, how you behave in a situation. You deploy a tactic, and based on that tactic and those other three variables, then you're going to choose, or the person is going to choose, whether they're committed to whatever you're trying to get them to do, whether they're just compliant, they'll do it because you're sure, why not? They're indifferent, apathetic in a way, or they're actively resisting you. They're actively not doing it, or going against how you're trying to influence them. So this model is a powerful model, very simple, but very powerful to think about. And so then you should say to me, what the heck are influence tactics and how do we deploy influence tactics? And that's what this chapter is about. So there's a wonderful book. It's about persuasion, and it's written by a guy. His name is Robert Cialdini. It's this guy. The Psychology of Persuasion is the name of the book. The Psychology of Persuasion. And persuasion, in a sense, is sort of like influence, right? I mean, if you're trying to influence somebody, you're also at the same time persuading them in a way. I like influence better, but those two terms could be interchangeable in a way. So he wrote about these 6 weapons of influence. He's a social scientist. He did lots of research. It's very much validated, and it's adopted by a lot of scholars in the leadership realm. So this is good stuff. And he broke it down like this. He talked about authority, commitment and consistency, reciprocity, social proof, liking, and scarcity. And we're just going to briefly talk about these. And this is just a fun way to think about how we influence other people. So authority is people are more likely, these are the people we're trying to influence, are more likely to follow credible, knowledgeable experts. That's obvious. So when you think about authority, it's not formal authority. This is like expert authority. So they use the example that goes like this. If you call a real estate office and you say, hey, I have a single family home to sell in the Chicago suburbs. And the person on the line says, oh, I know exactly who you should talk to. They live in the Chicago suburbs with their family. They've lived there for about 20 years, and they've sold over 350 homes in that area. And so then they transfer you to the person, and you're immediately thinking, great, this is exactly the person I need to talk to. And that person can influence you because they have some level of credibility. Just one sentence alone postures you in a position of being influenced a little bit more. So pretty simple, but pretty obvious. Commitment and consistency. Once people commit to something, they feel compelled to follow through. So that was the example I tried to give you, that when you put it out there that you love leadership, that was that example I went through before, that I'm now committing to this. Therefore, I'm going to be more compelled to actually do it, follow through with it. So it's kind of like putting something on your calendar. And so if you put something on somebody else's calendar, so let's look at it this way. Somebody tells you, hey, I want to sign up for a triathlon. And you say, okay, great. When are you going to do it? And they look at you like, what do you mean? When am I going to do it? I just said I want to sign up for one. You said, no, like, which one are you going to do? So I don't know yet. So the next day you go to them and you say, well, have you found one out yet? They say, yeah, I actually did. And they say, well, I'll do it with you. Now you're like, oh my gosh. And not only will I do it with you, let's go ahead and sign up for it. So once you sign up for it, and you start talking about it and you tell other people that you want to do a triathlon, you're that much more influenced by doing the triathlon itself. So the point is you're committed because you're putting it out there. You're more compelled to follow through on it because now it's sort of becoming this thing that you're committed to. And so my life coach did a little thing with that. The reason why I try to keep going back and forth, but I want to share stories with this because I think the stories are powerful. There's goals that you have in your life right now. Maybe it's go to the gym. Maybe it's get an A in a class. Maybe it's do a triathlon. Maybe it's go see a counselor, whatever it may be. Some of those goals I just listed, you could literally do within 3 minutes. For instance, decide to go to the gym, set your alarm, whatever, put your clothes out. Set your alarm, put your clothes out is moving you closer to being committed to going to the gym. So when you wake up in the morning, you hear your alarm and you don't get up and you wake up and you see that your clothes are laid out, you feel that much more guilty of, dang, I didn't go to the gym. So that's one. Go see a counselor. Well, make an appointment. Go to a website, schedule an appointment, give them your credit card information, put it on your calendar, and that within 5 minutes, you've now moved so much closer to the goal of going and seeing a counselor. It's crazy. So that's what that one's about is how do I influence people? Well, get them to commit, get them to do something like that. So reciprocity is a powerful one. The reality is that when other people do things for you, you feel more compelled to do things for them. People feel obligated to return favors or acts of kindness. There's the reciprocity one is when waiters and waitresses give you a check. Sometimes and this will never be the same now that I'm telling you this. Sometimes on the check, you're going to see a little smiley face. The reason why they put the smiley face there isn't because they're trying to flirt with you. I mean, it might be, who knows? It's because they know that since they put a smiley face on your check and they put that little effort, you're more likely to tip them more. There's like a 20% chance that you're going to leave instead of a 15% tip, you're going to leave a 20% tip because they did something for you. So you want to do something in return. Another thing that waiters and waitresses do is they'll give you a mint. So with your check, they give you something. They say, oh, we don't typically give these out here. They might say that, but here's a mint. And then they walk away from your table and they come back. You guys are extra nice. I'll give you 2 mints. And because they've given you 2 mints, chocolate mints, whatever they are, that don't cost a lot of money, you now feel more obligated to tip them. Another thing, when grocery stores, they give you free samples. Trader Joe's does this all the time. Trader Joe's gives free samples away, not because they're nice people, but because when you consume free food at Trader Joe's, you feel obligated to then buy something. It's reciprocity in action. Social proof. So people tend to follow the lead of what similar others are doing. This is a scary one in a lot of ways, but it's an important one. And it kind of ties into authority as well. There's a situation where there's somebody that was actually killed in an alleyway, and it was considered to be a tragic accident. But I forget this person's name. I wish I knew the name. And so what was happening is the person was screaming, and this person was actively getting assaulted in an alleyway, but nobody did anything about it because somebody thought somebody else was going to do something about it. And nobody seemed concerned or worried. So if nobody was really concerned or worried across the street, well, then why should I be concerned or worried? If my neighbor over here heard the same screaming, but they didn't come over and knock on my door and say anything, then why should I be concerned? So this is that social proof. We're more likely, people tend to follow the lead of what similar others are doing. So you look around for affirmation. What should I do? How should I handle this? And when you notice that you're the only one that is thinking or acting a certain type of way, you might conform to what other people are doing. So there's a powerful influence tactic of understanding what other people are doing. We're going to get into more details, but these are fun to think about. Liking. People are more easily persuaded by those they know and like. If you know and like a person, it matters. There was an experiment that they did where they put groups together. And what they did was one group, they were forced to get the task right away. They were given a deadline. Hey, you guys you're going to get together, but you immediately have to perform this task because you have a deadline, you have to get it done. And then this other group, they never gave them a deadline. And they told them that they have to do this task and turn it in whenever you're ready. They didn't add that extra pressure of time constraint. So the group over here that needed to accomplish the task, they didn't get to know each other. They went straight to the task. But then the group over here actually got to know each other. And the group that got to know each other, the quality of their outcome of their product was way better. I feel like they turned it in time or even before the other group did. And they were able to be influenced by one another and persuaded by one another more because they took the effort and energy to get to know one another. In the era of social media, in the era of doing what we're doing right now on Zoom, it's a lot harder to influence people through this tactic of liking because you're not around them as much. We have to take time to get to know each other. We have to share stories with one another. And if we can't form that bond of liking, we can't influence people as much doing that through that influence tactic. Scarcity. People value things more when they are less available. There was an airline that was going from, let's say, Frankfurt, Germany, somewhere in Germany to France. And there was one particular aircraft. There was a special kind of aircraft that was taking people back and forth. And they made a public announcement that in a month, they were no longer going to fly that route with that special aircraft. It was like a new age aircraft because it was unprofitable for them. They were removing that route from the system. The next day, that that plane, that route sold more tickets than it's ever sold. People wanted to get onto that plane for the next couple of weeks, and they were driving traffic towards that plane. People wanted to fly that route because they knew it was going away. The fact that they knew they weren't going to be able to get it a month from now, drove them to want it because of the scarcity component. So that's a way to influence people. Is it's kind of getting people to it would be another term is not hustle, but a sense of urgency about things. If we don't act, this will go away. If we don't act, we won't have a job. If we don't act, we won't be friends anymore. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can do that in a much more positive way. Of hey, there's a bonus pool here, and the bonus pool, Duolingo, I swear, is the best at this. They tell you that you can only get double XP or bonus points for the next 10 minutes. So they keep you on the app for 10 minutes, and then 11 minutes later, they offer you something else, but you want to make sure you use it because you know it's going to go away. Like, oh, I only have 10 minutes. I better start working harder now. And so they drive, and marketing really drives all of these 6 components. And I'm sure you can see it in a lot of different areas. We're going to unpack them more in more detail tonight, but we don't have the time. But these are the 6 weapons of influence. And when I say weapons, it sounds like a bad word, but every marketer, every leader, every true influencer, especially politicians who understand rhetoric, they know these things. They know it because this is their job. And so my job is to get you to understand them as well and understand the value in some of these influence weapons as a leader and why it's important. So we talked about the outcome when you reflect on some of these leaders that one might consider to be heroes and think about their lives.